the food industry is turning to these sweeteners as a way to respond to the market that says, no, we don't need as much sugars in foods. So they're going to try to reduce the amount of sugar, but they don't want to dampen down the sweetness because they know that sweetness sells.
Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Performance Life podcast. Today we have an expert on an extremely important topic. We have Michael Goran, Ph.D. Michael is a professor of pediatrics at the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, which is affiliated with the Keck School of Medicine at the University of Southern California. He is program director for Diabetes and Obesity at the Saban Research Institute and holds the Dr. Robert C. and Veronica Atkins Endowed Chair in Childhood Obesity and Diabetes. Dr. Goran also serves as co-director of the USC Diabetes and Obesity Research Institute, and he's a native of Glasgow, Scotland, and received his Ph.D. from the University of Manchester. Prior to that, he had training on the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Vermont, and he has a long list of accolades here, including being the author of a book called Sugar Proof: The Hidden Dangers of Sugar That Are Putting Your Child's Health at Risk and What You Can Do. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you so much, Tyler. It's lovely to be here, and thank you for bringing this topic to your audience.
I think it's a very, very important topic. In fact, I've had many disagreements with fellow parents about sugar being okay and not being okay, but I'll let you kind of give a little background about that. So I guess let's start with, how did you become interested in or really get involved in this work in terms of child obesity and the kind of the work that you're really involved in now?
Yeah, so I've been doing research in childhood nutrition and obesity for over 30 years, maybe closer to 35. That's been kind of my sole research mission since obtaining my PhD. And this is just a topic I was always very passionate about in terms of understanding how children grow and how nutrition fuels that growth. And, when I started out in this field, there really wasn't a lot going on in terms of understanding how childhood growth is altered, resulting in obesity and metabolic diseases. In fact, when I started, things like type 2 diabetes and fatty liver disease in children, which we're now very focused on, when I started, those were not even on the radar. Those were thought to be adult-only diseases. But as I've gotten more involved with the research, obviously the rates of childhood obesity have continued to increase, and now we're seeing some of those conditions. So I've just pursued it and always stayed kind of laser focused on the role of nutrition and the environment in early life to try and understand how that really programs future health for children. And originally, we weren't really focused on any one particular dietary aspect. So I was letting the data guide me. And what I was guided to was dietary sugars, added sugars in particular, because that kept recurring, not necessarily as the only factor contributing to obesity and metabolic diseases, but it was a recurring theme and one that can be modified relatively easily. And so it just seemed to be like a common denominator that was related to in some way, not just rates of growth and rates of obesity, but also many of the metabolic problems like type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, cardiovascular disease, and the list goes on and on and on. And childhood is when it all begins. And I wrote the book because nobody really reads the research papers. So I've published over 400 research papers in my career. Wow. But I wanted to make sure that I accelerated the dissemination of those findings to the families and members of the community who really need that information rapidly, because it is very practical information that could impact current and future child health.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing the work, and you're you're right. A lot more people read books than research papers, unfortunately. But what? Let's talk about what have you said, like when you first started your work, type 2 diabetes in children and things of that nature was almost non-existent. What
Mm-hmm.
have you seen, has been the major change in, over the last 30 years then in how our children are fed?
Well, we're seeing greater reliance on processed foods, the vast majority of which contain added sugar as well as other chemicals and compounds in them. We're seeing cheaper, more processed foods. We're seeing really the displacement of beverage choices being predominantly 30 to 40 years ago or more. Children drank milk and water, and now it's the majority is juices, sodas, and other beverages containing added sugars. So we're seeing a switch in source of beverages, increases in sugars, and not just, we can get into this in more detail because it's not just more sugar, but different types of sugar that we're seeing can make an effect.
Interesting. Yeah, let's talk about that. I'm not sure many people understand the different types of sugar. Not sure I fully understand it either.
Yeah, it's something we struggled with a lot when we wrote the book in terms of really how to explain this because it is difficult and confusing. But and many people advocate that sugar is sugar, but that's really not the case. There's different types of sugar, and even different in different ways that it's consumed. And a classic example of that would be fruit juice versus fruit.
Right.
So there's natural sugars in fruit, but when we drink fruit juice, that has a very different effect than eating fruit. Because it's more concentrated, it's a liquid form, so it's more rapidly absorbed, and that has consequences on the body. And so there's that, and there's different types of sugar being ordinary sugar, table sugar, which is what we call a disaccharide. That's two smaller sugars joined together. Glucose, which is the currency of energy in the body, and fructose, which is not used directly for energy in the body. So that's ordinary sugar derived from sugar cane or beets, and when we consume that, those molecules break apart. The glucose is used for energy, and the fructose has other metabolic effects that we can talk about. And now there's over 200 different names for sugar.
Hmm.
Some have more glucose in them, some have more fructose in them, and it turns out that balance of glucose to fructose can make a difference. Glucose and fructose are identical chemically, but they have very, very different effects on the body.
Yeah, and so fructose is what's commonly found in fruit, right? As you mentioned, though, fruit juice is much different than actual fruit, right? Which has no added sugar. The fruit sugar in fruit just comes naturally from the actual fruit. And it's interesting because I have heard this kind of debate or people on social media saying, "Oh, sugar is sugar. Or, all sugar is the same," but you kind of intuitively realize and know that that's not true, right? Like if I ate a Hershey's, chocolate bar, I would almost start shaking or I would just feel completely off balance. If I eat a banana, I don't feel that way, right? So there's got to be, right? So what have you found then in terms of the differences and which is the ones that are the really dangerous ones versus, are fruits, how do you feel about fruit? I'm curious.
I love fruit. I love to eat fruit, or I'll even blend it into smoothies and so on. But which is fine because when you eat the whole fruit or even the blended fruit, you retain all the fiber and all the phytonutrients and all the other healthy aspects of the fruit. And when you eat the fruit, the fructose that's in there is very slowly released. So
Mm.
and that slow release of fructose is beneficial for the body. However, when you drink, let's say you drink a glass of apple juice, that may have the fructose from 3 apples, right? And nobody's really eating 3 apples um, at the same time. But when you drink that glass of apple juice, you can do so in a minute, and it's highly concentrated fructose. And it turns out metabolically, under those conditions of rapid digestion and absorption, fructose wreaks havoc with the body's metabolism and with the brain. Because the body doesn't recognize it in that form from an evolutionary perspective. We always ate fruit, so we have this very slow uptake of the fructose. The rapid absorption of the fructose under those conditions, the fructose sugar is converted to fat in the liver. And that fat can get stuck in the liver and cause fatty liver disease, which is another major problem. And that whole pathway of conversion of fructose to fat in the liver, it produces inflammatory molecules. And it's the exact same pathway whereby the liver converts alcohol to fat.
Mm.
And the fat can get stuck in the liver and cause problems, or it can get released back into the circulation as lipids or cholesterol, basically. And that's where we get the connection, the unsurprising connection between sugar and heart disease, because of that conversion of the high fructose into lipids, dyslipidemia, heart disease.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think like the juices and the even Gatorades and Capri Sun is like one of the most popular drink amongst kids. And I made a comment to my wife one time. My daughters have always played soccer, and you get kind of some parent brings a snack pack for all the kids, and some people bring oranges and orange slices and things of that nature. And then sometimes you see a snack pack that's like a Gatorade that has 30 grams of sugar, a bag of Doritos. And, one time I kind of made a comment or a joke, or probably like a joke in bad taste, I guess. But I said to my wife, this is like the diabetes special, this snack pack. I mean, it's like we got
Yeah,
60 grams of sugar and processed foods and, artificial coloring and, all sorts of stuff. And I said, this is just awful. And it's, yeah,
it
I think,
doesn't
yeah.
make any sense, because no professional athlete of any age would take a break and snack on Gatorade and Doritos, or some other highly processed. Professional athletes are chomping on bananas and drinking water or some other specialized hydrating fluid. And so I think this is really, really problematic. And it's not complicated. I don't know. I think there's just this social norm of, kids like Doritos and Gatorade, and it's a bright color, so they're probably going to like it more.
Yeah, I have the same thing. I've actually made some comments because, even my wife has said to me, or other people have said to me, oh, they're just kids. Don't be so hard on them. And I said, okay, if you want to poison your kids, and it's kind of really just to make a point. Like, let's not make any mistake about it. Yes, our children will be happy if we, take them out to ice cream every night, or give them, some really high sugar, snacks or desserts, whatever. They'll be happy. You make them happy, so you think, oh, that's nice. I'm a good parent. I'm making my child happy, or something of, But let's make no mistake about it. Sugar is poison, and we are poisoning our kids when we give them sugar. Now, again, to be as strict as an adult or whatever, people can argue that. But again, I think we shouldn't be kidding ourselves. And I was also curious your thoughts. Like, the biggest concern I have is I don't want my children to become addicted to sugar and take these traits as they continue to get older, and then they're continued to eat this high sugar diet.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of issues there. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's a poison. It's certainly not good for them in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, kids aren't necessarily worried about their health in 10, 20, 30 years, right? They just want to have fun and be happy, healthy kids. But there is kind of this long-term risk, which is cumulative. And that's not to say that you should not give your kids any sweet treats or sugary stuff. We certainly don't advocate that in sugar proof. We advocate more of a moderation, um, to kind of find the right balance, because yeah, we want our kids to be healthy and have fun, and you know, be social and not feel like they're the odd one out. But there's also a fine balance between that and moderating their future health. And sugar proof is all about, as the name implies, sugar proof. Just like it's like sunproof. The sun causes cancer. If you get too much sun, you'll get skin cancer. That's not to say you can never go out in the sun, right? That just it's not sustainable. We have tools like sunscreen and sun umbrellas and sun shirts and so on. So sugar proof is taking the same stance. Sugar is everywhere. It's like our kids are like surrounded by sugar everywhere they turn. But sugar proofing is about how we can get kids help kids navigate the high sugar food environment so they can still have fun and be a kid, but not become, as you say, addicted and ruin their future health.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's an important point. And I did get to a point where, again, I'm a health nut. I know maybe too much about the detriments of sugar. And so for me, I was almost starting to drive myself crazy, because every time I would see my kids eat something, it's like, no, like, and it was, and I said, at some point I said, listen, I got to let go here a little bit. I have to just let them be kids. I can't drive myself crazy. I ate a lot worse when I was a kid than they did, as long as they turn it around later. But one thing that I have done is we never allowed any soda or sugar drinks, in the house. And so our kids generally always drink water. And I think that alone has made a huge impact. When I see other kids drinking soda and juice boxes and all sorts of other really high sugar drinks, I think that alone, just having your kid drink water, 95% of the time, I think that can make a huge difference just in of itself.
Absolutely, that'd be my number one tip right there. And make it, um, you know, not having it in the house is huge. And research studies have actually shown that most kids get soda outside of the house anyway, and you as a parent have control over that. And as long as you also make alternatives readily available, like we have, glass bottles of water in the fridge, they're always full, except when the kids don't fill them up because they're supposed to when they empty it. That's another story. But there's always something there. If they open the fridge that Thursday, they get home from school, they have a water bottle to take to school. Liquid sugar is the biggest problem and the biggest source of added sugars. So if you can cut that out, at least in the home, you've made a big impact, and you've sent them a subtle message as well, without like having to be overly controlling and feeling like you're saying, no, you can't have that. Well, you wouldn't have it because it's not in your house anyway. And just kind of take a deep breath when they go off to the cinema or out with with their friends, knowing that they're probably not having water. But what I found is with my kids, because my kids are older now, 21 and 18. You don't listen to me much anymore anyway, but I think I've left an impression at some level on them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to hope that I am as well.
Yeah.
What else can you mentioned kind of in the book? You talk about other, some alternative ways. We spoke about one, which is, eliminating the liquid sugars. What are some other ways that kids or parents can help their kids be more sugar proof?
Yeah, I mean, and just to follow up on that, the eliminating liquid sugars can happen. For example, I'll have my kids, I've told them, if they are having soda, let's say they're at the cinema, fill the cup up with ice, put a lot of ice in it. It tends to dilute the sugars a bit. So dilution is another option. If your kids are hooked on juice, these commercial products are so sweet nowadays because food companies are trying to hook your kids on it. Take control. You can dilute it. You can add a little bit of water and kind of um, gradually increase the dilution so that eventually they'll be okay with something that's less sweet. So, that's part of the same eliminating or reducing the impact of liquid sugar. The other thing is breakfast for kids. Breakfast traditionally is a very high sugary, carbohydrate meal. I think there's the kind of general philosophy that you got to pack the energy in and send your kids off with, a lot of energy in their system. And so breakfasts are typically high carbohydrate, high sugar. Think of cereal, jam on toast, pancakes with syrup, all the regular breakfast items. So in Sugar Proof, we talk a lot about how to really moderate sugar at breakfast time, and understanding that breakfast happens very fast. And yes, you have to get your kids out the door, usually in a hurry and usually well fed. The problem with the high sugar breakfast is you send them off out the door, everything looks good. But from our, reports, what we're seeing is kids on a high sugar breakfast, mid-morning, they'll crash. You might not see it because they're at school and you're at home. And so, whereas a more balanced breakfast can keep energy levels more level throughout the day. So we're talking about, finding a low sugar cereal, making sure you put some type of protein on top of it, like yogurt or even some protein powder or hemp seeds, some increase the fiber. Uh, you don't have to put jam on toast. You don't have to put syrup on pancakes. That's not like a written rule. There's lots of other fun things you can do that are less sugar, more protein, more fiber. So the more you can kind of shift that balance away from sugar towards protein and fiber, the more stable the energy levels will be of your kids during the school day.
That is great advice. And it's something I think about a lot is how is this affecting how my child is learning or they're being able to respond and do well in school. I think it's really underrated, the diet and how well kids can do in school as well, and their moods, right? We all, everyone thinks about, oh, the kid has too much sugar, they're acting crazy and then they crash and things of that nature. But I think that's really good advice. And yeah, so for me, for one of my daughters, I make her a healthy smoothie with strawberries, blueberries. I throw some protein powder and some Greek yogurt in there as well. And for my other daughter, she likes eggs, so I'll make her some eggs. Today she had a piece of toast with some avocado and eggs on it. And yeah, I think it makes a big difference. They do sometimes enjoy cereal, so we actually buy Magic Spoon cereal, which is a higher protein, low sugar cereal, and that it's actually made to taste kind of similar to kind of traditional kids cereal. So we really like that one. And yeah, I think it's made a big difference.
Yeah, you can make those shifts. Sounds like you've read the book because those are some of our top tips with the smoothie. I've been doing that myself. Actually, I found this plain Icelandic yogurt, 19 grams of protein per serving, and I'll just put a big dollop of that into my smoothie. You can even make the smoothie with the yogurt as the base. Certainly, I would not advise on using juice as the base or milk with added sugar. You use a milk with no added sugar, but this when you do that, not only have you introduced protein, which will slow down the absorption of the sugars and give your kids a more even blood energy level throughout the day, blood sugar level. But the live cultures is a great source of probiotics that will help their gut health. But what we found is that we have evidence from families who have used our 7-day no added sugar challenge. Again, this is not something we advocate long term. It's just a way to kind of flush the system out. And when we do that and alter kids' breakfasts away from the traditional high sugar, high carbohydrate breakfast towards the kind of thing you were talking about, eggs on toast, smashed avocado on toast, high protein, high fiber smoothies, kids were literally falling asleep on the and reporting that. And we have several families who report their kids were like full of energy all day long. And adults now are kind of tuning into the whole idea of blood sugar regulation, glucose monitors, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same concept with kids. In fact, kids are more susceptible to the spikes in blood sugars and the crashes in blood sugars, the classic bouncing off the wall to rolling around on the floor syndrome that you'll see with kids at parties. And that's all to do with their blood sugars at a party, soda, cake, candy. High blood sugar means high energy levels. Kids, though, are very efficient at metabolizing that sugar, which is why they crash very quickly,
Mm.
because it's not good for the body to have high sugar levels. So the body very efficiently takes it out of the system. And when it does that, it tends to kind of go down lower than it should. Hypoglycemia, which is when they're rolling around the floor and they're angry and kind of emotionally out of whack, that's because their blood sugars have kind of crashed too low. So these kind of breakfasts typically will form the sugar roller coaster all day long, because when kids are hypoglycemic, they have hunger,
Mm.
combination of hunger and angry, and they'll tend to just eat more high sugar, high carbohydrate food and continue the cycle. So we need to break that cycle.
What's your opinion on, like, kids seem to eat so many carbs? They also expend more energy than we do. Are you okay with pastas and bread and things of that nature for kids, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm a fan myself, so no, I'm not opposed to it. But I think again we have to kind of keep it healthy. So type of bread makes a difference. A lot of commercial packaged breads has added sugar and other preservatives and additives. So I go for a cleaner product. Um, I During the pandemic, I was making my own sourdough, but I tend to buy it now from a bakery, so it's usually a cleaner product. And the same with pasta. I mean, we're not having it every night. We might have pasta once a week, or rice once a week, or every other week. But again, it's what you put on it. Just like what you put on your toast, you don't have to put jam on your toast. On your pasta or your rice, I'm usually layering it with veggies and other kind of healthy things. Most pasta sauces will have added sugar and other preservatives and additives, so much better to just kind of grill up some veggies and throw that on the pasta or on your rice. We love in our family, we love Japanese food, so we're eating rice bowls almost weekly. But I'll take a little bit of rice at the bottom. We have a little kind of rice measurer that my kids like, and it gives them a nice tidy portion at the bottom. But it's kind of all about what goes on top, which is always kind of nice, healthy stuff to kind of counter it. So I'm okay with it as long as we're thinking about the portion size, where it comes from, and what you're putting on top of it.
Yeah, I think you're right. The sauces and those are some of the things that you got to be so careful. And it sounds like a common theme here that you're advising that really everyone should be doing is looking at the back of the label and looking specifically, and I think it's the first thing that I typically look for as well. I think it's probably the number one thing I look for. I look at the back of the label, and immediately my eyes go to that. Are there any added sugars? Right?
Yeah, and it's it's tricky. It's very it's not always easy. I make mistakes myself. Last week I was buying yogurts. I was on a course of antibiotics, so I was trying different yogurts. I was at a health food store, bought a bunch of yogurts that looked great. I got them home and looked at them in a bit more detail. Actually, for me, it was the taste that gave it away because I'm very sensitive to that. And
Mm.
I tasted one Icelandic yogurt that looked great from a health food store, so you assume it's decent. And it just didn't taste good. Looked at the label and was like, they had like added sugar, quite a lot of it. I mean, some yogurt with a little bit of added sugar is okay. It also had sweeteners and fillers and starches and gums. And yeah, it's really, it makes it a lot more difficult because you really have to be a bit of a detective at the grocery store. Mistakes will happen. And the sugar proof no added sugar challenge, one of the reasons we do that is to help families kind of be more aware of that, to kind of realize where all the added sugars are hidden in things that you wouldn't necessarily expect them to be in, like pasta sauces, yogurts, bread, crackers, energy bars, and so on. So, but there are very good, healthy alternatives out there that don't have the added sugars. And again, it's not just the added sugars, it's the other fillers and gums and stabilizers and chemicals. Goodness knows what they're doing to kids' bodies. And, you haven't mentioned alternative sweeteners yet, but hopefully we'll get to that topic as well. So, yeah, bottom line is it's not just the front of the label. You got to look at the back of the label. And it's not always easy because there's over 200 names for sugars.
Yeah, yeah. I think typically, though, added sugars are something that's pretty standard. I know it's definitely something I always look at, and I've done the same. I've gone to, even a Whole Foods or a Sprouts, and I'm like, oh, this yogurt looks good, and I turn it around. I'm like, nope, can't do that one with the, 15 grams of added sugar or whatever it has. But let's talk about the alternative sweeteners that you just mentioned. I would like to know a little bit. What are the major culprits there? What should we be looking out for?
Yeah, and again, it's another layer of complication because whereas you just mentioned that added sugars on the nutrition label now in the US has to differentiate the natural sugars from the added sugars. So yogurt's a good example because there will be some sugar in there from the dairy, which is lactose, which is fine. And then there's a line for the added sugars.
Hmm.
But a yogurt could also say uh, all natural or no synthetic sweeteners. And so it's gotten very complicated because the food industry is turning to these sweeteners as a way to respond to the market that says, no, we don't need as much sugars in foods. So they're going to try to reduce the amount of sugar, but they don't want to dampen down the sweetness because they know that sweetness sells. So we're now seeing, more and more of these sweeteners appear in more and more food. It used to be just kind of diet soda was the main culprit, where you would see these alternative sweeteners, but now it's all over the food supply and different types. Um, the most common ones being sucralose, aspartame, Ace K, which are the ones mainly used in beverages. But now we have the whole complication of stevia and monk fruit because those can be marketed as natural. So the yogurt I bought said all natural, but it had stevia and monk and allulose, another sweetener in there. These are naturally occurring compounds, but they're not used at naturally occurring levels. So, and all of these compounds have different effects on the body. So, for example, there are all hundreds thousands or tens of thousands times sweeter than ordinary sugar. And so they elicit a response from the body because the body responds to sweetness. And we can talk about what that does, but also they can affect the gut because many of them are not absorbed. And if something's not absorbed, it can just be fermented in your gut and cause problems. And we're, basically kind of trusting the food system that these compounds are healthy, and a food company can, as you I'm sure know from your products, generally recognized as safe just means it doesn't cause cancer in a lab animal or doesn't cause a lab animal to die, but we don't really know how it's affecting the body in the longer term or more subtle impacts like on memory and learning and gut microbiome, which are all impacted by these compounds.
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting topic. I know, I think we've kind of all heard about, like you said, sucralose or aspartame, however you pronounce that one, and a lot of the other ones. But and obviously we always stay away from any of those. But it's interesting because like the organic stevia and the organic monk fruit, if you have that as a sweetener, those don't seem to give me any issues. I seem to feel okay with those, and that is kind of like, if we have to sweeten a chocolate protein powder or something like that, an organic plant-based protein powder like the one we have, we're going to want to do that with an organic stevia or organic monk fruit, versus anything else that's available. Or the other option would be to have a cane sugar, which I would almost imagine that added sugar would potentially be worse. I know certain sugar alcohols that have become big on the keto diet, like erythritol. That's one that for certain I mean, I had some of these, keto cookies that had erythritol, and, I ate four tiny little, tiny minuscule little cookies, and I could just feel it in my gut after. I mean, so that
Yeah.
erythritol, and now there's been some recent studies that just came out about that specific sugar alcohol. So I try to avoid sugar alcohols. We try to avoid added sugars. The stevia and monk fruit seems to be the best option to sweeten something if you have to, like a protein powder. But yeah, I'd be curious to hear, also kind of like, do you have ones that you think are worse than other, and is adding sugar worse than adding, some of these other ingredients? And how have you seen that affect kids as well, these other ingredients?
Well, there's not as much research of the effects of these compounds in kids, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And so I take a very cautious approach because I know the studies that have been done in adults tend to uncover uh, subtle effects on the body that are not helpful. Um, and I think also that part of the issue that we're dealing with is about trying to reduce the impact of the overall sweetness of the diet,
Mm,
because what we're seeing that regardless of what sweetener is used, that sweeteners trick the body into thinking there's energy coming in when there's not. So, whether it's sucralose or aspartame or stevia or monk fruit, it doesn't, you know, regardless of the source, it's still activating a sweet taste response in the body. And that sweet taste response activation sends signals to the rest of the body saying that there's sugar coming into the body, but the body doesn't know it's fake. So the body's response to that is to draw sugar out of the blood because it thinks there's a lot coming in. And when that happens, again, you get hypoglycemic. And so a lot of the discussion on these sweeteners is focused on the fact that it does not cause a sugar spike, which is true, but
mm,
it may cause a sugar crash, might be more subtle. But the studies have shown that over the longer haul, individuals consuming sweeteners tend to eat more calories throughout the rest of the day. So it's
interesting.
not really satisfying or addressing the overall craving for sweetness. That's one thing. The second thing for me is the taste is contaminated. I don't like the taste of monk fruit. I don't like the taste of stevia. I don't like the idea of introducing chemicals into the body that are untested. I think that stevia leaf and monk fruit, it's different from chopping up a stevia leaf and putting it into your drink, or chopping up some monk fruit. That's not the it's kind of false advertising, because a bag of monk fruit sweetener is basically, well, for starters, a lot of them are mostly erythritol, which is another story. But most of them, the compound is an isolated compound called mongroside A. And for stevia, it's an isolated compound called riboside A. These are isolated compounds from the fruit or from the stevia leaf that have the sweet taste property. In the same way that sucrose is isolated from sugarcane or from beets. So these are purified compounds that are added to food. So it's important to kind of keep that in mind. But for me, eating is all about taste and enjoyment. And I just don't like the taste of them. And so I would rather, and what I tell parents also is, I would rather control the sweetness with something that you like the taste of and that you can control, than something that is a chemical and you don't know how it's affecting the body and it doesn't taste good. Like, what if you're going to make a batch of cookies or make a smoothie? Why ruin the taste with monk fruit or stevia? You could make the same smoothie but add a banana or a date or whatever else you have, or even a bit of honey or maple syrup. I'd rather do that and have something that tasted good, and at least I know what it is, and I can control how much I put in it.
Mm, yeah, great point. And interestingly, honey and maple syrup are two that commonly appear as added sugar on the back of a label. Like if I'm getting a paleo granola, that's basically just nuts, and then and then you'll see some added sugar, and it'll be like honey or maple syrup, and I'll say, oh, okay, well, in that case, it's not that bad as long as it's not as much added sugar. I would say, for me at least, it's not as bad. So
I'm fine with that too. I have a granola sometimes before I'm playing tennis. I like to make sure I've eaten something solid. Has a little bit of maple syrup in there. You know, you can't be 100% correct all the time. Otherwise you'd end up eating nothing. So
right.
it's all about it's all about the balance. Because some would say, "Oh, it's got maple syrup, you can't eat it," but it's also got like a ton of other healthy ingredients in there that are good for my body. So, and I'm putting other stuff on there, like mixing fresh berries in there and throwing a dollop of yogurt on there, or a bit of kefir or something. So, you know, it's all about the totality of the thing. Not You can't just say I'm not going to have anything without added sugar. So you got to find the right type of product and find the right
Yes,
balance.
I agree. I agree. Well, Dr. Goran, this has been really great. I really loved how you've been able to distinguish and give people advices, and I think in your book you share many other alternatives as well, and different ideas for parents to help their kids become sugar proof. Where can people learn more, follow you, find you, get the book?
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, that we're on Instagram. That most of our social engagement is done through Instagram at Sugarproof Kids. You can find the book on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and anywhere books are sold. But you can find Sugarproof. And on online, our website, we have actually more recipes online now than we do in the book. Sugarproofkids.com. You can sign up for our newsletter there as well. We're mailing out weekly, and join the movement to get our kids more sugarproof.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for joining us, and hope we could do it again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tyler. It was nice to talk with you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, can you please leave us a rating or review and subscribe? I've realized that while we have actually increased our downloads a lot, we're actually getting a lot of downloads, which I'm really happy about. We actually have very few ratings. And I realized that I've never asked people really to rate much. So I'm asking you now if you could please rate and review and subscribe. And if you enjoyed the episode, please forward it along to anyone that you think will get value out of this. Also, if you haven't checked out our line of products at buypeakperformance.com, you get 20% off your first order. That's www.buypeakperformance.com. We have some incredible products, including our organic high-altitude coffee. If you don't know this, coffee is one of the most heavily sprayed with pesticides out of any crop. So it's really important that you drink organic coffee. We've gone above and beyond to source what we believe is the highest quality and healthiest organic coffee in the world. We're also famous for our organic green superfood powder. You can get 20% off of that as well at buypeakperformance.com. We also have an organic vegan and paleo plant protein. See, most of the vegan proteins out there are using brown rice protein, which is really not a good source of protein, and it's also a grain. And if you're paleo, you know that grains tend to cause inflammation in some cases for some people. And so we wanted to make one that was paleo friendly and vegan and organic. We made an amazing amino acid profile, so it's really one of the best plant proteins for muscle building. So you can check out Peak Performance Organic Plant Protein. You can find that on our website. Of course, all our products are on Amazon as well. So thanks again. And again, please, if you enjoyed the episode, please forward it along to someone who you feel can get value out of it. And please leave us a rating, review, and subscribe. Thank you.